Hi, everyone. Welcome to Encourage Theory. I'm your host, T. Blackman Speaks, and this is the first episode. So I'm so excited. I wanted to launch a podcast because I believe that we're missing out on some encouragement in the world. And naturally, I'm an encourager. As long as I can remember, I have been encouraging. And I mean, I take it back to like elementary, really, but like junior high for sure. Like, I was that source that people would come to, like, what should I do? What should I do? And I'm like, I don't know. What are you thinking? Like, I remember being a peer listener in school. I don't know if you guys remember peer listening at all, but they train teenagers how to listen to others and to help them out and, be that confidant, not necessarily an advice giver at all, but really like helping to walk people through how they're feeling, what they're experiencing, and just be that source of confidence and confidentiality for others. So I hope to, spit quite a bit of knowledge from my own experience, my own story, and encourage you all to just like really create the life that you want. I plan on having guest speakers to help to do just that as well. And hopefully you will join me on this journey. Like I'm super excited. So a little bit about me. My name is Tiffany, and I live in Michigan. I love Michigan. I was born and raised in Michigan. I actually hail from the cereal city capital of the world. If you know it, Battle Creek, Michigan. What? I love my city. It's a smaller city. It's about 52,000 people or whatnot. And I grew up in cereal factory division basically. We call it post edition. In the 80s. I was born in 1983. So I was like super excited when I got to like go back to the past with Wonder Woman recently. And my daughter joined me, and we just had so much fun kind of reliving that. And I realized, like, oh, that's why I like Blazers so much, is because I was born in the 80s and raised in the 90s. So, but yeah, I grew up in this small factory kind of neighborhood. And my family, I mean, I come from poverty, man. Like, I remember food stamps, like physical food stamps. I remember my parents working every single day for 10 to 12-hour days. My dad was a factory worker. My mom had multitudes of different jobs. My grandparents were hard workers as well. And I remember just being raised to like go to school, get through 12th grade, didn't really know what was after that. College was never the goal. I was just raised to work, like work hard, go to school, finish 12th grade, and then go to work, you know? And that's exactly what I did. There is a lot of trauma that I still to this day am kind of like unpacking from my childhood. Some of which like even some close folks in my family don't know about, from like molestation, and trafficking that a lot of people, close family members, don't even know about to this day. Like, I want to unpack that stuff with others as I go, so that way I can encourage people on how to heal. Like, I've healed from that stuff. I don't like travel around speaking about it yet. I think that that is on the horizon, but like I definitely plan on sharing that part of my story. I know a lot of people are healing and hurting from things like that that they've experienced. Poverty did a lot to my mindset growing up, like my expectations, my limitations, the successes that I strived for, or even the value that I placed on myself. I truly believe that my parents did the best job that they knew how to with the resources that they had. And I'm super grateful for that. But I also know that there was a lot missing. And thank God there's like these pockets of hope and opportunity all throughout life, placed in some of the most awkward spots, right? Like it's super cool. Like for me, one of those spots was church because I was in third grade when I was introduced to Christianity and going to church. And I was a bus kid, self proclaimed. Like I went from one neighborhood on this side of town all the way to another neighborhood on the opposite side of town, in order to learn about who God is, and who Jesus Christ was, and how that really plays into my life today. And so I thankfully have experienced so much through that. It really is a huge part of my story, from my childhood all the way up to my adulthood, but definitely my teenage years, my formative years, really having this hope to cling to, really good examples and people that really just like loved you, like come in, give you a hug, snug tight, like how can I help you kind of love, you know? So that has so much to do with who I am as a person today and how I operate in the world. And um, but encouragement is something that I feel like even it was like no matter where I went, whether I was in school or at home or at church, like I was the second of seven children. I was the acting oldest. My oldest brother stayed in trouble when we were younger. So I had to like act as the oldest. I was the second mom of the house, you know, so a lot of responsibility ended up falling to me to make sure that my younger siblings were you know, in line, doing what they need to do, not fighting, not killing each other, you know, stuff like that. And so I mean, I found myself in a position of encouragement for them. I found myself in a position of encouragement for my schoolmates. Even at church, I ended up taking on roles as a leader and an encourager at church, even. And so that's kind of been my life story. And I just want to offer connections for folks and ways in which you can feel encouraged. Because I know oftentimes like walking in your life story, it feels lonely sometimes, you know, like you don't know where to go for advice, you don't know where to go to feel uplifted, how even to encourage yourself. Like those are things that I want people to know about, to learn about. And so if I could say, you know, Tiffany summed up in one word, that word would be resilient. I mentioned before about a little bit that I've experienced in my life, but I actually was married and divorced twice. To the same man. We tried to work it out. I have four gorgeous children from it all, but I mean, resilience is needed in circumstances like that. Like, how do you bounce back from divorce, and not just once, but twice? That's a huge part of my story and who I am. I feel like there has been career changes and disappointments that I've experienced as well in life that, you know, you just have to be a very resilient person. I think that poverty alone taught me to be resilient. Like when you don't have a lot of resources at your hand, at your disposal, direct disposal, you literally are on a mission to find them, right? Like if you don't have enough food, you will figure out how and where to go to get the food that you need for your family. So I feel like my parents helped to teach me that, to teach me to be resilient, and to be resourceful. And I feel like just being in the position that I was in as the second oldest and acting old, like you just find resources. I started working when I was 13. Um, and really working for me did not come out of like, ooh, I want to get a job and I want to make some money like to play with. Like, no, I started working because I needed necessities faster than I could get them from my parents. And again, they were doing the best that they knew how. And I was the second oldest. So, like, I wasn't growing as fast as my younger siblings were, like out of shoe sizes, out of coat sizes, things like that. But I felt like I was not getting some resources as quickly as I needed to. This could be as simple as it was as simple as toiletries. How fast can I get deodorant when I need it, or pads, or like all those things. Like, my family tried really hard, but like some of those things I was really secretive about too. Like, I'm running out of stuff, I'm running out of stuff and I can't get it right this second. So I felt like I needed to have money in order to get basic necessities, shoes, clothing, things like that I needed right away. I remember so much help growing up. From the local charitable union, which was a nonprofit organization that had secondhand clothing that they gave out for free to low income families. Like, that was our saving grace. Goodwill was our family's saving grace. There was 7 kids and 2 adults. Like, there's a lot of people to care for. Like, all of those resources meant so much growing up. And, I don't think we'd be fed if we didn't have government assistance at the time. Food stamps. I mean, I remember getting the government food boxes, even like all of these. My church would step in and assist our family during holidays, with the food baskets and things like that. Like, so many people were very willing to help my family growing up. Um, and that's how I learned to be resourceful. That's how I learned to make connections in the community, to understand what organization's doing what group of people's doing what, all the different things that really add up to help you be a resilient person. Like, the times where you can't provide for yourself, the times that you struggle with that, like, there are still very kind people, very organized resources in order to help you sustain yourself and your family. So, um, I was married very young. I was married at 19. Um, and I mean, I thought that that was going to be a really great relationship. But there was definitely some red flags that I was not taught as a child, essentially, because 19 is like not for real an adult. I don't know why. We're like, you're 18, you're an adult, go on your own, you know it all. Like, it's not the case. But at 19, I met this pretty suave man that, I was for certain like this was the one. And we were going to get the house with the white picket fence. And instead, we got an apartment that was in a duplex or quadruplex, whatever they call it. It was 4 apartments in one, and a baby right away. I got married when I was 2 months pregnant at 19. So I essentially was a teen mom. Like, I oftentimes did not categorize myself as that, but by the books, I was a teen mom. I thought I was avoiding that. My mom was a teen mom. My older brother is 2 years older than me. So my mom had him when she was 13. And I knew that I was avoiding teen pregnancy. Like, my mom had those very brief and blunt conversations with me, like, okay, do whatever you want, have 7 kids like I did. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, never gonna have sex because I'm not about to have 7 children. But I think there was a point in my life where I realized, like, that wasn't realistic, that, 7 children don't just all happen at once. And love, or what feels like love, infatuation, lust, like all those different things, like, that happens, right? Like, you do start to be with an attraction to someone. That attraction becomes, what you believe to be love, and you just go from there. So we walked down the aisle when I was 2 months pregnant with my oldest child, and I thought we were going to build something really great together, but realized that there was a lot of trauma from our childhoods that we ended up bringing into our marriage that just kind of escalated when you're trying to build a new life and with new expectations, a lack of communication, like all these different things, right? So I have had to learn to be very resilient in many different ways, even in marriage. Our marriage got to the point where there was definitely pretty quickly signs of emotional abuse and physical abuse at the highest extent, and verbal abuse. Like it was just not what I had signed up for. I thought that marriage was supposed to be something extremely lovely and something that was the best relationship that you could aspire to, and it was not, based on who I was willing to accept. And to this day, like I am super adamant in being very real about relationships. Like everything did not fall on my ex-husband as the problem, as some people would say. Um, my past, my trauma, my actions, that was the problem too. And my actions and reactions, that was the problem too. Um, I wish and I hope actually that there are more resources for singles to understand like how to be healthy and whole individually, in order to accept or find that good mate in a husband or a wife. But I also like, outside of just wishing, like my hope is that I can be a resource for that too, because although I come from a failed marriage, like it taught me a lot about what I should be doing right, what I should have done in the cultivation process, and the process of actually like understanding if our value system was on the same page, if our goals were the same, all those things that I didn't think about when I was 19. Like I did not think that those were the important things. I thought the important things were like, he's a hard worker like I am, and he'll be someone that pays attention to me. Like I think oftentimes women find themselves in positions of settling for men that pay attention to them. They don't see past that. They don't see deeper to the value system. They don't see deeper to like purpose, even like their life purpose. Does it fit with the purpose of this guy? And if it doesn't, then it's not a good fit. It's all about like what feels good at the moment, and also like how much attention they show me. Like there's so much more than that. So I hope to be a resource and an encourager when it comes to that as well. I'm a pretty bubbly person. I don't wear my heart on my sleeve. I think that this is also a reason why I decided to podcast, is that thus far, that some of the things that I've committed my life to, I haven't had the opportunity to be very blunt and open about some things that I've experienced in my life, and I want to do that. So I'm planning to use this podcast as a way to connect directly to you, to tell you more bits and pieces about my life and to open up, because I know so many people have experienced these bits and pieces that we oftentimes don't want out in the public to put on display or to talk about because it's embarrassing or whatever the case may be. But I'm pretty adamant about being that open person, so that way folks can heal and become whole, and recognize like you're not alone. You are not the only person that has experienced a failed relationship, that has experienced turmoil in raising children, especially teens, like, and not knowing what to do because you haven't been there, done that. But there are people that have, and they have experience, and they want to share with you. They want you to succeed. And that's my highest goal with this podcast, is to encourage you to create the life that you want. Nothing in life has been handed to you to the point where you have to accept it. You have to accept poverty. You have to accept failure as the end result. You have to accept that you're only going to learn to this certain educational level. You have to accept that you will never be out of poverty, that you will never escape the mindset that comes with being abused in the past. Like, you have every ounce of potential to rise above that thing. And I know because I've been there, I've experienced it, and I continue to this day to thrive because I choose to be resilient. I choose to build a life that I want. Every single step of the way, every turn, when it gets challenging as a mom, when it has gotten challenging as a student. I mean, I spent 6.5 years in night school as a mom of four, and a full-time worker. And at some of that time as a wife, like I know how tough things get in life. Yet I chose every single step of the way to not give up, to not say that this occurrence was going to crush me, to say that this limit was the ceiling and it's as far as I could go. No, I definitely chose to still be resilient and to rise above any obstacle, any barrier, any point of discontentment that I experienced. So these are the bits and pieces of my life that I hope that you will hear even more about throughout my podcast as I open up and talk to some really awesome friends along the way, or even as I share individually about these topics. So do choose to follow me. I am so excited that you are going to hear more about my story and about how I have chosen to be resilient and be encouraged and to encourage my own self, because that is definitely a part of it too. And I hope that you tune in to all the episodes. Thanks so much for watching.